I'm Miss Faith, and this is the third of our videos this week on cooking through CrEATe Lab at the Arts and Science Center. And I hope that you've enjoyed so far making cheese and cinnamon blueberry toast with us. Today we have an also very interesting project to work on, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. But first I'm going to tell you what ingredients we're using. So we've got today, we have eggs, and we have milk, and we have flour, and we have baking powder. The measurements for the butter are on the label so that you can see if you need a tablespoon or 2 or 3. That's how you measure it. Okay, so the tools that you're going to need today are measuring tools. So you might be familiar with some of these. Right? This is a liquid measuring cup. It's got a spout on it so that it's easy to pour things like milk. This is a dry measuring cup that's really easy to use measuring things like flour. And these are our little measuring spoons that measure little things like sugar and salt and baking powder. Pancakes is a recipe that you will really need to be careful about. Some of the other 2 things that we did this week, we could kind of not worry too much about whether we had enough blueberries or we had enough of this or that. But for pancakes, you've got to measure. So you know what the ingredients are, and you're already being safe, right? Because you know that safety is step 1 to what we do, right? You already washed your hands? You've already tied your hair back and put on shoes so that you're safe. Right. First it says, beat the eggs in a mixing bowl. So I'm going to get a mixing bowl and I'm going to beat the eggs. Right. You hold it in 2 fingers or 3 fingers and you kind of hit it against the bowl so it didn't crack that time, did it? So you may need more pressure. Did you hear it that time? There it goes. Right. So then once you've got a little crack in it, you take your 2 thumbs. You put your thumbs where the hole is and you hold it over the bowl. You pull on the shell and out comes the egg. So you might want to use a whisk as a tool to do this. You could use a spoon or a fork, but a whisk adds a lot of air to it. And did we say that we wanted our pancakes to be fluffy? What's one thing that will help pancakes be fluffy? Right, air. So by whisking the eggs together like this, we're adding air to them. Beat eggs in a mixing bowl with a whisk until they're thoroughly blended. The next thing is put the butter and milk into a small glass measuring cup and heat in the microwave. So first I'm going to measure the milk. Right, and what does it say? It says 1 cup of milk, and that's on the side here, so I'm going to measure that very carefully. And it says 5 tablespoons of butter. So I'm going to put that in. Microwave for 15 to 20 seconds. The butter is not quite melted, so I'm going to put it back in for a few more seconds to do that. And then we're going to let it cool a little bit. Do you know why? What happens if you add hot milk and butter to eggs? The heat applied to the egg is going to scramble it, and all you're going to have is scrambled eggs. The next thing we're going to start to do is to measure out the dry ingredients. We need a bowl for that. Let that sit there and cool off a little bit. All right, so now let's talk about measuring dry ingredients, okay? So you need to be very exact. All right, so we'll start with the flour, and it says 1 1/4 cups of flour. I have only a 1/4 cup measure. So there's your math problem. How many of these do I need to make 1 1/4 cups? So the answer is 5. Because there are 4 quarters in 1 cup, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So I'm going to do this way. I'm going to fluff my flour. You always want to fluff your flour, no packed flour, fluffed flour. Because what am I adding here? Just a little bit of air. If I press this down so that it's packed like a little sandcastle, I pressed out the air and some of the fluffiness No, it's not the way you want to measure flour. All right, so I've fluffed it up, and I'm going to scoop it, right? And then I'm going to sweep it, all right? How many did we say? 5, right? What else has to go in here? Sugar. All right, I've got 2 little dishes here, and one is sugar and one is salt, and I need different amounts. And they've been sitting here for a while, so how am I going to remember, or how do I know which one is sugar and which one is salt? There's only one way to figure it out at this point, and that is, right, to use common sense and your other sense, which is taste. That one's the salt. This one's the salt. Let's keep that one over there. All right, I need 1 tablespoon of sugar, just the right amount. Sweep that off. I'm going to do the salt next. And I need 3/4, right? 3/4, and I have 1/4. How many of these? Right, 3. Here's another tip. Do not ever measure your salt over the bowl. Put your salt over here and then put it into the bowl. So I'm going to turn on the grill while we're talking now to start to warm it up. Milk and butter. All right, so I'm just stirring this up a little bit. Hopefully it's cooling down so that I can put it into my flour. And I can feel this, and I can feel that it's still warm, but it's not hot. But we're still going to let it sit there. Pancakes get fluffy because of the chemical reaction between the baking powder, the flour, and the liquid, and the heat. So all those aspects go into creating this beautiful, delicious pancake. All right. You do need to measure your baking powder very carefully. And this container has a nice ridge here where you can measure your baking powder exactly. Can you see what I'm doing here? I'm getting the exact right amount. All right, and that goes on 4 of these. 1. Right. So now, do I have all the ingredients? Flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. And I'm going to stir them together. And why do I stir? So that everything's evenly distributed. I have eggs, and I have flour, sugar, butter, and baking powder, and I have some milk and butter in here. So my butter mixture is cooled off now, and I'm just going to whisk it right into my eggs, and then put it into my flour, and then we're going to have batter. Right, everything is together. So I'm going to stir this a bit. I'm going to whip it a little bit to get some of my lumps out. It doesn't matter if all the lumps don't go away, because the chemical reaction is beginning. I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but that you can see bubbles, that the baking powder is creating the bubbles, the air bubbles that make the pancakes light and fluffy. All right. So I've got a warm grill. You might, depending on your grill, you might need to put a little bit of oil or butter on it. This one. If you do not have this grill, you can do it on a stovetop. I'm doing it here so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take a small amount. You do not need a big amount. A small amount. I'm going to put it right really carefully on there. So I think it needs to be a little warmer because I'm not hearing it sizzle. So I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. Just a spoonful, because they don't need to be very big. Now I can hear it sizzling. And you should be able to get 10 or 15 pancakes out of this. So another big cooking question is, how do you know when it's done? One of the ways that you're going to know that it's done is you can smell it, okay? You can look at it. I can see bubbles across the top of all of these pancakes. You see bubbles. I can hear that it has stopped cooking. And so in a minute, I'm going to see if I can move it. Yeah, these are moving. And I'm going to flip it over and see if the first one is done. All right. So to flip, I'm just going to get it underneath, and then I'm not going to wave it around so that it goes on the floor. I'm going to hold it close. I'm going to hold my elbow up so I don't hurt myself. And flip it over. And it's nice and golden brown on the bottom. I'm going to turn down the heat now while they finish, and I'm going to get a plate, and I'm going to think about what I'm going to have with my pancake. And it's nice and golden on the top. Let's look at the bottom. And it's nice and golden on the bottom. All right, so I'm going to flip that onto my plate. So I'm going to make a radical suggestion that you don't have syrup, but that instead that you put some fruit, whatever kind of fruit you've got at your house is fine. Banana, apple, orange, blueberry, strawberries, those things are starting to come into season. So I have here a little bit of cheese that was left over from our recipe the other day. It's a little ricotta-like cheese. And I'm going to put that right on top. I'm just suggesting that you try it because it's a really interesting flavor combination. And the things that make chefs really great are their ability to combine flavors. And then I'm going to garnish it to make it look nice with some slices of bacon. There you go. That's something different, right? One of the things that's exciting about trying cooking is trying something different. Thank you very much for joining us for our cooking series. The Arts and Science Center will be presenting CrEATe Lab in July and September. We hope we'll see you there, and thanks very much. Happy cooking.